There are two areas of personal growth that I would like to speak about. One of them is general personal growth that every human being has to try to make. And secondly, because before you can become a Jew, you have to become a human being. And secondly, Jewish personal growth, how a person can grow in his Yiddishkeit, how we can help him grow in his Yiddishkeit. Now you, the Mikarev, talking to our participants in the program, you're the Mikarev. The person you're speaking to, we call the Miskarev, Mitkarev. Sometimes call him Bali Tshuva. Has all kinds of connotations today, so positive and negative ones. But I would like to just start by issuing this little piece of advice. I was going to say warning, but it's really a piece of advice. You don't have to be perfect, and you don't have to complete the job. If you're talking to someone, you're trying to Mikarev him, you do the best you can, and you leave the rest up to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He runs the show. He's the pilot. When you get on the plane, you don't go in there and tell the pilot how to drive it. Okay? So you do the best you can. We're going to come up with some ideas that we think might help you do the best you can, but don't have the feeling many people who go into Kiruv, if they're not successful, they feel that they're failures and they did something wrong and they have all kinds of incriminations. You don't have to feel that way. You have to try your best, just like everything in life. So that being said, there's a Chok Bechira requires us to make intelligent plans to accomplish things. Now, Bechira is the fact that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave us free will. We can choose. He gives us the ability to choose. So I'm going to make some choices. I'm going to choose whether to drop this pen or not. Now it's not really a good or evil choice, but it's a choice. I do have the free will to do it. Now, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, if I let go of this pen, Hashem can make it stand there. But I want to make it fall down here first. I hope it doesn't hit the floor. Every year the floor seems to get farther away. So I'm going to demonstrate what the Chok Bechira is, not just Bechira. Who dropped the pen? Was it me or was it Hashem? Truth is, it was both of us. He allowed me to have free will, and I decided to do that. But he created gravity, and that force that he maintains constantly drew the pen down. I make another decision. I really want to know Kol Torah Kula, every single sefer that was ever written by kosher people. I want to know it. I really want to know it. That's my decision. Now, if Hashem wants me to know it, I'll know it. If he doesn't want me to know it, I won't know it, right? The Chok Bechira says, it's not enough just to make a decision. Hashem says, I'm going to allow you to go ahead and make a decision and follow through on it. Of course, there are hagbalos, there are limitations that he puts in nature, and we have personal limitations that he gives us. But aside from those limitations are things that we have to learn how to deal with and how to overcome and create a plan. The Ramchal says that this Chok of Bechira is the reason that we have to daven. Now, tefillah is two elements. One is the Shevach and Hodah that we say to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, who deserves every second that we can do that. And the second part of tefillah is bakasha. We're asking for things. all the 13 middle brachas are all brachas of bakasha. We're asking HaKadosh Baruch Hu for things. Now, don't you think Hashem knows what we want? Why do we have to even ask? He knows what we want. He knows what we want. He knows what we need even better than we do. Why do we have to daven? I get this question very often from some of the new people who come to Or Sameach. Why are the tefillah so long? Why is Shemona Esrei so long? Doesn't Hashem know what we want? Today I only have one or two things that I really want. That's what I want to ask him for. Well, it's very nice. It's also good. The Ramchal says, because of this chok of Bechira, because I know I can drop this, and I know that Hashem endowed me with a certain amount of intelligence, that if I study and I learn and I'm omel b'Torah, I will accomplish a certain amount of things that I will know. And at the end, I will sit there and I will think, it was me. I did it because I worked hard and because I have X amount of IQ. That's why. It was my accomplishment. I did it. And if it's in business, I did it. And everything that we do, atachone la'odem da'as. Hashem, you give man da'as. It's true. You gave me a certain amount of intelligence that I'm capable of doing certain things. Please don't stop. Chanenu me'itcha, te'ah bina v'haskel. Says the Ramchal, the tefillah is to remind us that everything comes from Hashem. All the successes that we've had because of the Chok HaBechira, it all comes from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Every second of the tefillah, it's Baruch Atah Hashem. Atah, second person. You're talking to Hashem and you're thanking Him for the things that you have already been given and the things that you would like to ask Him for. Because of this Chok HaBechira, we who are involved in Kiruv have to come up with an intelligent plan to help people. We who train the Mekarvim have to come up with some kind of plan to direct and give advice on how to do Kiruv. And there are certain time-tested and proven things that work. One of them is the first thing you do when you're speaking to someone who you want to be Makariv, make sure they're Jewish. Now, it may sound funny today, but most of the Jews that are out there who are not affiliated with Yiddishkeit they may not be Jewish, you know. Their mothers may not be Jewish. Their fathers may not be Jewish. If their mother's Jewish and their father's Jewish, they are. But, you know, that's how they're growing up in a home like that. And it's very important for you to know what the status of this person is so that you can direct him properly. I guess about 40 years ago, there was a Talmud in the yeshiva who became very frum. And he was learning, it was like one of the masmidim of the yeshiva. And he came to a class, one of the classes that were given in the afternoon, and he learned a halacha, that if the mother of a person is not Jewish, so he's not Jewish. He said, my mother's not Jewish, my father's Jewish. So he said, oh, but don't worry about it. We'll arrange a gerus. You could be a rabbi. You look like one anyway. Already, he's wearing, a long coat and a black hat, dangerous black hat, and he said, wait, I want to think about this. And he had a choice to make, and he made the wrong choice. He said, I want out. And he threw away a big chalik of his own mabo. He didn't realize, but he did. But he said, it's too big of a responsibility. So you have to know that the person's Jewish, number one. And if there's any gerus in the family, it may not be your job to check it out, but somebody should make sure that it's a kosher one. This applies to even people who aren't gerim. If you're speaking to these people, never say any disparaging remark about a non-Jew. You never know who has a relative that's not Jewish. And besides that, the truth is there are really a lot of very, very nice non-Jews. And it could be that he has a friend who's not Jewish, but is a good friend, his best friend. And now when you say something, you just make the wrong comment, you're going to turn him off. He's not going to be interested in this bigotry that's called Judaism. And that's it, you lost him. It doesn't pay. It doesn't pay. So it pays to say nice things. You could try in the beginning to find out what interests him. Ask him what his interests are. What does he like to do? What does he like to talk about? If you can get him to talk about his hobbies or his professional career goals, then you have to be a good listener. You let him talk about it. It's very good. Try to listen as an interested listener, if it's possible. Sometimes to talk about something that his hobby is something which is totally usher and against the Torah. So of course you don't encourage him. You can change the subject. But otherwise, so you're not interested in medieval art. So say, but you can make a comment like I wish I had artistic talent. I really don't. But at least he knows you're listening. When someone thinks that you're interested in them, it makes it much easier for him to open up and talk to you honestly about his feelings and what he thinks. Otherwise, he's going to be very guarded. He's not going to trust you, especially if you dress like this. The boys that come into Derech in the beginning of the year and are introduced to Rabbi Lazerus, who looks like this and has this color beard, they're afraid of me. I didn't do anything to them yet. I will. But I didn't do anything yet, It takes them a little while to get the courage to come, and talk to me. Even though I'm very friendly, I smile at them and I like them. And if I have a 5-minute conversation with them, I can usually tell them more good things about themselves than they can say. Which brings me to the next point. Very important point. Maybe it's one of the most essential points, not just in Kiruv, in relationships at all. Try, in your conversations with him, to try to come up with, identify 5 positive traits that he has. See if you can get him to say 5 good, see if you can see in him 5 good things. If you can, you will like him. And if you like him, dvar meyotzim min halev, nichnasim min halev, he will respond. He'll feel like you like him. It'll put him at ease. He won't feel you're trying to trap him. Feel this person really likes me. And you will like him. It's not a game. If you really see things good about him, that's how we are mekayim the mitzvah of ahavta l'reacha kamocha. All mitzvahs in Shas, and entire mitzvahs, all the mitzvahs have pratim. There are klalim and there are pratim. The klal of ahavta l'reacha kamocha is the klal. The pratim are how do you do it. The Gra said that's the most difficult mitzvah in kol Torah kula. But the way that we do it is by doing this. Identify positive things in a person, even someone who you don't like, but if you can see good things in that person, you will begin to like them. At least you'll feel certainly more positive towards them. This piece of advice, by the way, is good not just for people who are in Kiruv. This is good for anyone who's alive. Like if you have a relationship with anybody, you should be able to say 10 good things about your wife. All you married guys here. If you can't say 10 good things about your wife right now, you got work to do. Okay? That's one of the advices I give under the chuppah, when I'm beside a kedushin. I tell each one, the husband and the wife, you should each be able to say 10 good things about each other, because life has difficulties. There are strains, there are stresses. And when those things come, you should be able to rattle off with a snap of a finger all those good things that you know about your wife, right? And she should be able to do the same thing about her husband, because it takes the edge off difficulty, and then you appreciate how much, why you really married her in the first place. When it comes to a kiruv, you have to do the same thing with the person that you are being mekarev. You have to genuinely like him, and the only way to do it is by seeing that you have positive traits that appear in his character. If in the course of your speaking to him, you detect any kind of emotional problem, any kind of emotional disorder, if you happen to be professional, semi-professional, and you can detect these things, you don't have to solve the problem. Don't try to deal with it if it's out of your league. If he's a little sad, that's one thing. But if you detect that somebody has a serious emotional problem, it doesn't mean that you don't have any relationship with anymore, but to deal with that problem, try to direct him as gently as possible without offending him, to see if he can get some kind of professional help to deal with this particular problem. Today's world is so complex, and it's crazy out there. I mean, we live in a sheltered world. We can't even imagine how bad it is. Even if you think you imagine how bad it is, it's like, some of the stories that the boys tell at the end of the year, what they went through before they came to Derech. They never told us about it before they came. It would, like, it could make your hair stand on end, like, even mine. It's like really frightening. So please don't try to do something that's out of your league. It would be helpful to you when you talk to him to find out what his relationship with his family is. Are his parents alive? Does he have a good relationship with them? What about his siblings? Try to estimate his intelligence. Is he intelligent? Is he not intelligent? Rate him from 1 to 5. Just get an idea. People who have less intelligence than number 5 are still good Jews, and they're good Ishamis, and we have to work with them. But we have to make sure that we don't do things that are beyond their ability to deal with and understand. If he has any learning disabilities, so then confer with one of the experts here on how to deal with learning disabilities. Okay, everybody can learn. Okay? You just have to know how to deal with them. If he has a secular degree, or he went to college, or he's in college, what's he studying? What are his plans? What does he want to do? Does he get along easily with other people? That's important to know. Does he seem to have intellectual honesty? Because if he does, then you can go in for what we call the kill. I deny I said this. I'll never say, I never admit that I said that just now. But what I mean is, then you could really roll up your sleeves and talk to him Dugri about life and Yiddishkeit and do you believe in God and those kind of questions. These are just Rashi Prakim. I mean, there are many, many classes during the course of the year that the participants in Ola Gola learn different techniques for helping people. Okay, so what do? How do we help him? Now that we know something about him, how do we help him? So the first thing and most important thing is, and if you want to get him on your side, is to deal with the self-esteem issues. Today, in today's world, 96% of all people walking around have self-esteem issues because of the media, because of the movies, because of all the supermen and super ladies that they see in the world today. They feel like, they're nothing. They become insecure. And then when they come to a place like this and they start learning how to learn, we had a session a few years ago in the summer of internships. We had a program of people coming to learn part-time and do work part-time and interns. And at the orientation, I asked, there were 28 members there, something that Rabbi Yaakov Lubo organized, this internship program. He's done a tremendous job on it. And on the initial orientation, I said, how many people here don't recognize any of the letters in the Hebrew alphabet? 8 people raised their hand. Then I said, how many people here recognize letters but can't read? Another 8 people raised their hand. I said, how would you like to learn how to read in a week? They got very interested, and we did it. They were able to read in a week. You come to a program, you're a college graduate, you have a master's degree in whatever it is, in psychology and engineering, and you come to a yeshiva, and you're standing in front of this, you're sitting with this rabbi who's dressed like this, or dressed, with something shorter than this, and he starts teaching you things, and then you go away for Shabbos, and you learn a little Chumash. You were able to read a couple of lines of Chumash, and then there's this 5-year-old kid sitting at the table who starts rattling off this stuff and makes you feel like an idiot. So you have to realize that these people are not idiots. They're very intelligent, but they never learned these things before, and that can make you very, very insecure. Start with this quiz, which is a good quiz for everybody, including yourself, to ask yourself this question. The question I asked before: can you say 5 good things about yourself? Take for a second now, and just think, if you had to say 5 good things about your character, could you do it? I don't want to embarrass anybody. Ask it. But I venture to say that most people in this room cannot think of even 5 good things to say about themselves. And I say that only because of experience. When I used to interview the couples for Or Lagola, I would ask the husband, after we spoke about what Or Lagola is about, and Kiruv, and why does he want to do this, and I would say to him, could you tell me 5 good things about yourself? And he would say, I'm friendly. I said, that's very good. Okay, humility is the second one, modest. Okay, let's count that one. Okay, you got 2. Okay. 3 more, just 3 more. You must have lots of things. And all of a sudden the wife sitting next to him says, I can tell you, he's very intelligent, he has ambition, he can do things, he has a will to do the right thing, he's gentle, he's generous. So I turn to the wife and say, could you tell me 5 good things about yourself? She goes, and then he says, I can tell you, she's wonderful. She's so caring. She's sincere. He starts rattling off things. I said, a couple like this I would accept in Or Lagola, because you have a good marriage. And you are the kind of people that when you invite people to their homes for Shabbos, that's what people should see. This kind of, I have a sheet here that I then give to the people who are being interviewed. It has 100 positive traits on it. I have another sheet that has negative traits on it, and use that. I doesn't use it for myself. But for this, most people need this. Most people need this one. And that is, you have them sit down and just check off all the things that you think apply to you, honestly. You see, they check off 20, 30, 40 things. But you couldn't think of it before. Why not? Because you don't have the consciousness of it. The self-esteem comes from your ability to be aware of your positive character traits and abilities, and not to get carried away with it. You won't become a Balgaiva. Not from that. You need this to get this healthy, positive feeling for yourself. It gives you power, gives you the energy to be able to do things. It prevents you from being afraid to take chances. So that's what we we suggest both to the Makarev and the Miskarev, that he help him. You want to help him? First thing is build up a self-esteem. And it's just a question of awareness. And if you can help him with this, you'll make a friend forever. He will be grateful. He may not become frum. He never become religious. But you did something for him, and he'll remember that you were the one, you, the religious Jew who he met, made him feel like this good about himself. And that will make him much more willing to hear something in the future. It may get him to continue with you right away. You have to express concern for him. Of course, concern has to be real. You can't say, well, I'm concerned about you, and I really care about you, when you don't care about somebody. In order to care about them, you have to do the other thing. Think about 5 good things about them at least, and you'll start caring about them. Once you established a rapport with him, then challenge him on existential questions. You believe in God? Do you believe in God? That's something I remember in America. That was like something, it's not polite to ask that question. But ask it. Do you believe in God? I mean, basically, there are only 2 options. Either there's a God or there isn't a God. Which one do you choose? You know? If he says yes, most people do say yes. If he says yes, so then he says, you can ask him, what about his relationship with Hashem? Does he do anything? Does he feel anything? Would he like to have a relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu? If he says no, so if you're competent enough to be able to deal with those questions with him, and you can give him some evidence, as the Rosh Hashiva said before, we don't like to use the word proof, because proof has, I would explain it a little differently. Proof is a word that is a very confrontive word, and is, I have an idea that you don't have, and I'm going to cram it down your intellectual throat with my brilliance. Okay? So as soon as you use the word proof, and you're going to prove something to someone who doesn't believe in it, right? That's it. You know, the body language will start showing you they're not interested in hearing what you have to say. But if you offer evidence, then you make the decision. So I'm going to offer evidence. Okay? One of the things that we do in Orla is that we teach the Yungalite evidence for the existence of God, evidence for the truth of Mamad Har Sinai, and and once they believe in those 2 things, they're finished. If they have an intellectual integrity, sometimes they ask about, you believe in Torah? Do you believe in God? Yeah. You believe in the Torah was given in Har Sinai? Yes. Okay, you're finished. That's it. Now it's all up to you. Now it's just whether you're honest or not. So do everything you have to. How can you not? It's your integrity. You want to do what's right. Okay? You have to be careful who you say that to. Okay? You have to use some judgment. If you don't feel competent to deal with the question, then we say, send him to somebody who can deal. Would you like to speak to someone who could deal with this question? I don't really, I'm not an expert in this, and there's somebody who's better. He will appreciate the fact that you don't know something also. It'll make him feel, this guy he's not a computer, he's not a machine, He also doesn't know something. Okay. One of the things that I had difficulty, I still have difficulty with, is dealing with young people from the age of 17 to 25. I guess because of the culture in the Western world, immaturity is a tremendous problem. People are tremendously immature. They don't take on responsibility, not for themselves, and they don't care. They don't even care about themselves so much. About 10 years ago, I was at an AJAP convention I went with Rav Mendel Weinbach, Zecher Tzadik Livracha, who Rosh Yeshiva in this yeshiva built it, and since he's gone, there has been no replacement for him. And we were at this convention, and Rav Michael Twersky was giving a seminar on Kiruv. And we went to the seminar that he was giving. He was taking questions from the audience. And I raised my hand, and there was a little podium that you stood on, and you went to ask your question. My question was, how do you make someone become more mature? Well, what do you do? How do you do it? What do you do? So he looked at me and he said, well, that's a very good question. I said, I know. I said, so he said, so what do you do? He said, wait a second. I'm standing over here. You're over there. I asked the questions. You're supposed to answer them. He said, no, seriously. You're doing this for 30 years? You must have something. You must be doing something. So I said, I am doing something, but if it was good enough, I wouldn't be asking the question. He said, so what do you do? So I said, I'll tell you what I do. I say to a young man who's 17, 18, 19, 20, 15 years from now, who do you want to be? Who's the person that you want to be? Most of the time they didn't think that far. It's like, wow. I said, but who do you want to be? What kind of person? What kind of Jew do you want to be? Don't answer it. But answer this. Do you think you'll be married? Most people say yes, I hope so. Do you think you'll have children? Most people say, I hope so. Yeah, I would like to have children. I say to them, what would you want your son to see when he looks at his father? What kind of person? That's the person you have to start now becoming. Don't wait. Life has a way of forcing you into different situations. You finish college, you go to work, maybe get married, you don't think about it. You don't deal with the personal growth. You have to start now, especially if you're in yeshiva, start now. If you can help him make commitments, help him a little bit, like a little push. You know, why don't you wear tzitzis? How hard is it to do that mitzvah? You know, you come to davening, you want me to wake you up in the morning, you have a hard time getting up. Huh. You have anything against davening? No. Invite him for Shabbos, if you're married, invite him for Shabbos, if, it's a big if, I hope no one's going to be offended by this, if your children behave themselves. If the children fight, and the father's always screaming at the kids, or the mother's screaming at the kids, it does not make a good impression on someone who is going to hear about Shabbos, or experience Shabbos Kodesh, and the serenity, and the peacefulness, and the beauty of the Shabbos meal. Okay? Most people have beautiful Shabbos tables. And, but in case your children are going through a stage where it's not easy, they're still having difficulties, haven't completely been mechanech them, so avoid inviting guests for Shabbos for that. Okay? I know it's fun to have guests, but I want to end with this. The Mikari of himself. You, the Makari, the young participant who's in the program. You have to work on yourself also. When you're working with him, you have to grow just as much as he does. And you have to work on things that are essential to Yiddishkeit. And one of the things you have to work, make sure that you have enough time for your wife and your family, and certainly you have to be kovei eating. You have to make sure you have enough time to learn, to continue learning. You have to work on Avas Hashem and Yiras Hashem, which really deserve other whole classes on how to do it. But every day we say, at least twice a day, 3 times a day, sometimes some people say 4 times a day. What do those words mean? You will love the Lord your God. Not rishus. It's not a mitzvah. It's a chiyuv. The Mishnah Berurah in the Bir Halacha Siman Aleph lists it as a chiyuv. That love is an emotion. You have to feel something for Hashem. Believe me, He's worth it. He's lovable. And how do we do that? You have to look in the Torah. The Torah gives us the personality of Hashem. As the Borei, He allows us to relate to Him. He has a character. He's loving. He's kind. We said today, He's all those things. He's humble. He's anov. The Talmud Devar explains the humility of Hashem is that He's sovel, that He takes the abuse that we give Him, the way we make brachas. Mekarev, you, the professional. Remember how you taught your children how to make a bracha? Baruch Ator Hashem Elokeinu Melech HaOlam Shehakol Ehyeh B'Dvaro. You say all the words carefully, slowly, you think about the words. Remember, that's how we should be making brachas too. So, this is just some of the ideas that we tried to deal with in Olagola, and in Yitz Hashem, next year at Shivasa B'Tammuz, we won't be having this kind of seminar because Mashiach will be here. And here, Rabbi Amenu.